Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Alex from TCG Discussions coming at you with a Banlist discussion video. Bandai announced today, or I should say yesterday, that there will be a huge ban list incoming, basically, to help change up our format, I guess. I don't know why, but they decided to emphasize that it's going to be very big. So, today I want to talk about what could be on the ban list, what I would like to see on the ban list, and kind of what I think the mindset might be going into this ban list for Bandai, because I think that there are a lot of decks that just keep repeating formats, repeating sets, and are continuing to be shaped by new support that's coming out, not giving other decks a chance to shine, really. I play Dark Brawly, and that's definitely one of those decks. And so let's kind of dive into it and just see, spitball a little bit about where they could be going. So Dark Brawly. So there's a two-side of the coin argument to Dark Brawly. One, there's no good way for you to really address the deck besides like severely limiting like some of the Dark Brawly cards. Like I've heard some proposals, like if you make the activate battle once per turn, if you really want to kill the deck, that'll get it done. The other thing that I've heard is just severe limits to like limiting to one of the big guys, which is just kind of, yeah, that's also killing the deck. Like it's just really killing the deck. Some things that I think that they could hit are cards that are outside of like Dark Brawly as an archetype, because to be honest, Dark Brawly really draws its strength not just from its in-house cards, but it's become a powerhouse because of the cards outside of its primary card pool pertaining to the deck. So I think one way to go that would make nearly everyone happy, including your wallet, would be the Demon God Demigra. That card's just basically been a pseudo Dark Brawly card for a very, very long time. And it's just expensive as all get out. I'm glad I have my 4 because there was a buyout, I think, yesterday, and it's like somewhere near like $200 just for one copy, which is just downright absurd. Draft box cards just need to never be made ever again, because like anything that's good just gets way too expensive eventually. But another card that I think that could definitely be banned, and this would be a hit to Dark Brawly, at least in some sense, is Heartfelt Plea. Heartfelt Plea is downright ridiculous of a card. It should not exist like in any format whatsoever. I have no idea what they were thinking when they made the card, especially given the card pool of cards that can play it, and Dark Brawly gets to abuse it like absolutely for free. So it's either a plus, a crit, which is kind of a plus, or it baits like a counterplay, or you can just awaken and then all of a sudden your Vegeta super combos make you never see it again because it's the bottom of your deck. So of the things that are likely that I've talked about, the 4 main things, I really think that Heartfelt Plea is just definitely the way to go. And I think that's where they're going to go with it, because they're releasing more Dark Brawly support, believe it or not, in set 14. And I really don't think Dark Brawly is going anywhere fast because of that. I think that if, if they did, there might be like something semi-limited or something. I don't know, but that just feels weird, and I don't think that that's where they're going to go. I think they're just going to address the main focus, which is just Heartfelt Plea. And get that card out of here. So moving on, Vegeks. Vegeks might be a deck that just gets actually axed. And it's a sad thing to say because I like what the deck does. It reminds me a lot of Burning Abyss from Yu-Gi-Oh! But the reality is that deck just needs to die in a like fiery inferno and never return. Why? Because as long as the core 16 cards of Vegeks are ever a thing, it's going to be a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem. They will always, the deck is now proving that the like main Vegeks line in Elite Descendant was never really the issue. The leader milling 5 is an issue. The which you can't reduce it to 3 like other fair leaders, because then you just make the other leaders that do other things better, and you don't really solve the problem whatsoever. I mean, you can't solve it by like banning the unison, because that's just not fair to the deck overall. Like, I think that one thing you could do is errata the Kai to either be unique, which would be a huge boost to not seeing multiples of that dropped off like on a mill, or ban it. That's like the only other thing I can think of. And this makes Vegeks extremely fair very quickly. Some people think that the ban might be a little bit too harsh, and I can see that and kind of agree. But let me explain kind of why it would be like okay that's what happens. Number one, you'd still be able to get your Unison, a blocker, and Vegeta. Number two, what makes this really fair is that all 3 of those cards, barring the fact that a Unison is a Unison, have the Vegeta and Trunks have unique. And this means that unless for some reason you actually use the Trunks as a blocker, or your opponent gets rid of the Vegeta, or you get rid of the Vegeta for whatever reason, as long as that's like the mills are not guaranteed to generate anything new if you have all 3 on the board, which leaves you like, what do you do, right? And I think that would put Vegeks in either a tough spot or a little bit of a, okay, like now I just dedicate more to Overrealm and so on and so forth. And I think it would start making the deck extremely fair. The fact that the Supreme Kai is a free 40k in an aggro deck is stupid. Like, it just is really stupid. And I think that it's just definitely one of the cards that absolutely 100% either needs to get unique tagged onto it, or it needs to just flat out go. Like, it just needs to be gone. So, and it would be a card that, like, if you drew multiples of it in your hand, you're not, like, mad that you see it, right? So I think that's just where they should go with Vegeks, personally. Obviously, if they hit the Demigra, like I talked about earlier, you'd also be hitting Vegeks in a way, because that card's also played in there, and it's really broken. So those are my suggestions for Vegeks and what I think they could do. I'm not really sure if there's anything else that you could do without like actually just gutting the deck, like banning the Unison or something like that would address Vegeks, and not and address it in a real fair way. And I think that the Kai's the main problem. I think that it's too much free combo power in a deck that's aggro. Like, it's ridiculous. So, moving on to Mecha. Mecha definitely needs to be touched. And this is going to pain me to say, but I think they have to errata this leader. Or, and this is a big or, before adding the leader, and I think this would be a very fair step, errata Unite a symbol to be a U9 only leader. So what does this do? This immediately guts the idea that they're going to just start drawing an obscene amount of cards. It finally puts Mecha in a fair and balanced light due to card advantage and pressure. You're not all of a sudden not exploding for like a bazillion attacks and a bunch of free plays. So I think that that is just where they're going to have to go with it. That's the first step. If this somehow is not where they want to go and they just want to address the leader, I mean, they might just do that. I don't know. Some thoughts about what they could do is they could make the back like the front and make it once per turn during either player's turn. That would for sure, though, even with U9, kill the deck. It would absolutely kill the deck. And I don't think that that's where they would want to go with that. I don't think that that's what they should be doing whatsoever. But primarily, I think that irradiating U9 to say U9 leaders only is just the way to go. That engine and that deck is way too powerful. And it's something that's needed to be addressed for a long time. So I think that a lot of people are tired of seeing Bergamo come down or now Spirit Fist, and then, oh, your energy's tapped up. Well, then time to just draw 6 cards and take 3 life. Got it. Like, I think everyone's really sick of it. Yeah, I think that's just where they're going to go. This next card I'm going to talk about is rather interesting. My Dragon Ball chat was talking about this earlier. Cell Zeno. Cell Zeno, your time might be up, either for at least an errata, if not banned. And I'm really hoping it's one of those two. For starters, I am sick and tired of hearing decks and new decks and other decks that are coming out where Cell Zeno turn 2 is even a remote possibility. Like, I'm actually sick of it. I hate the fact that successor 12 has no energy cost. It is abysmal that card has no energy cost. What were they thinking? I mean, if you look at every other successor in the game that doesn't nearly have the effect on the game that card does, they all cost like 2, 3, 4 energy. And we've got and this is for like a 9-drop, and now we've got a 12-drop just being free out here. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's gone on for far too long. That card needs errata as an SCR. It just absolutely needs it. And it's sad. Like, again, it's one of those things where it's like sad to say for all the people out there who play Mecha and Sin and anything else or Brawly or whatever that just drops this card on the board. But it's got to happen. Like, this SCR cannot continue to be in the game the way it currently is. It is way too powerful. It is ending games way before they even begin. No deck should be able to be like, oh, I put enough attacks on turn 2 to get you to 4. What are you going to do about this 40k quad strike? Like, that's just ridiculous. Maybe make it cost 5 energy. And look, man, there are SCRs in the game that cost far, far, far more energy than 0 and do way more, but like also not nearly as much as if you like stop and think about like if Cell Zeno was like had 5 energy requirement for its successor, then it would be a dual attack quad strike that rips some cards. So I think that's where they should go. They should make it have at least 5 energy, so you're playing it on turn 5, not on turn 2, 3. Stand it with Pan. Like, I don't know. Like, I just really feel that that's what they have to do to the card, and it has to go. Like, it's just broken, and it needs to go. So it either needs the errata or, for the first time ever in Dragon Ball history, a ban. and it is the most ban-worthy SCR in the game. Every other SCR is either fair, balanced, meta defining in the way that it's played, tempo shifting, like everything else is just way more skilled. And then like besides like Apex of Power, Victory Strike, which is niched in one deck, and then there's just Salzeno just out here slapping everybody. So and this like ties into my next deck that I want to talk about, because I don't think you can hit Dark Brawly, Vegex, and Mecha and not address Sin Shenron. Sin Shenron is an extremely busted deck if we start nerfing every other top deck. And I'll get to red and blue in a second, but I really think that Sin needs something done to it. I think a hit on Allies Absorbed would be a much welcomed hit to the deck. If you put it to 2 or 1, I think that this would be very fair and balanced. And the reason is because it makes aggro gamble more. If they can't see Allies Absorbed and Oceanus, it gets a little iffy. And other decks can do their thing and rush you down. Like if there's another aggro deck, it can just rush you down. So that's one way. Another way, and I don't think that this is what they would do, is addressing the TP by banning it. But again, I don't think that that's the way to go. And I think that addressing Allies Absorbed is the real thing to do. The fact that Allies Absorbed can just become any card in your drop area, it's kind of sus. And not really a big fan of allowing Sin to have a heyday of a format while everyone else is just getting drugged down in the muck. So, yeah. So, on to red. King Piccolo. If again, this is one of those decks that you almost have to address. And this really pains me to say, but there's only one real card, in my opinion, and you need to hit to address the deck, and that's the Unison. Now, before you boycott and turn off this video, let me explain why I think that the Unison is the right card to hit in the deck. And I know a lot of people, especially in my chat, were talking about Drum. But hitting Drum doesn't solve, I think, the primary problem of what's going on in Piccolo. If you ban the Unison, but don't hit Drum, the deck can still function defensively and must rely on a more fair Unison to do its counterplays and whatnot. Whether it costs more energy or whether it just be another Unison. So I think that that's already a good like way to go. Number 2, the Unison is, if you ban it, you are not only doing like a service to nerfing King Piccolo, you're just taking out what needs to be either an errated Unison or straight up banned anyway, in my opinion. Why? Because its +1 is just draw a card. It's a 2 energy Unison, so it's just going to come down for 2 and start drawing a card right away. But the main issue is that you can't play defensively well against the Unison because it just blows your board up every single time you do it or try to play defense at all. And that effect, the fact that it is not once per turn, is ridiculous. If it was once per turn, so this would be an errata, I'd say it's more fair, but you really haven't done anything to King Piccolo, and that's why I don't think that you can just leave it at the errata. So, in my opinion, if you ban the Unison, you cut off 2 of its draw factor cards, 1 in the Unison itself, and 2 in the symbol. And so you need to now reinvigorate a new unison into the deck, which I think would be really cool. And let's just be real. The fact that it also has like a board wipe rejuvenate effect is stupid. And the fact that King Piccolo gets to abuse it is stupid. So yeet to that. Get this unison out of here, please. And it's no secret. There are lots of top players in the game who think that that unison is the best unison in the game. And they would be right, because every time Heroic Prospect Trunks comes down, it instantly dies. And it doesn't even do anything against the deck anyway. Anytime like anything that's 15k or less is playing the game, oh look, it's dead now just because you activated one card, like Power Burst against Vajek. Oh look, something died. Like it's ridiculous how devastating it can be on one's board state. But why not address Drum? Like, right, it's a barrier blocker. It's the key defensive piece. One, why are we acting like Drum as a barrier blocker is like the worst thing that's ever happened? Number one, just attack the unison. I told this to people all weekend who had never played King Piccolo in the regional last weekend. Just attack the unison. They can't combo off it anyway. And Drum, yeah, it's annoying. Fine. It's a minus 10k and a barrier blocker. It's like almost also like Whoop-de-doo Basil. Like, they're never going to attack with it. That thing just might as well sit there unless you go down to 1 life. And then, not to mention, yeah, like, ooh, a 15k barrier blocker gets to play defense. Yippee yay, whatever, right? But if you removed the broken unison, you just attack the already weak leader, and Drums are going to start dying and dropping like flies against certain decks. Like, if Dark Brawly had a semblance of sanity after the ban list, and you block with a Drum, why would I care? I warped off one of your other cards and swung for 30k at your leader, and thank you for blocking. That's one less thing I have to worry about in the game. So, like, it's just not to me, it's not a thing that really does anything to the deck, and so I just would rather have the unison gone, and so the deck can continue to play what it plays with other stuff, and it would be more fair, in my opinion. You can also ban Tambourine, but I think that's a little much. Or put it to 1, again, a little much. But moving on, talking about Blue now, because if you reduce the aggro meta to a grinding halt, like I've suggested so far, kind of, in certain ways in this video, you present a serious problem for control decks. Baby almost would have to get addressed, because the game one's already strong enough, and it's only going to get worse from here on out if we don't do anything to the deck. And here's the scary part, guys. I don't really have any good ideas to how to address Baby. I don't know what you do. Ban Gohan seems like a bit much. I don't know. I don't know what you can really do, but all I know, and why it's worth mentioning, is that Baby needs hits somehow, because you can't just give it free reign. I guess one way and an avenue you could go is like nerf the leader by taking away one of its 3 like draw resources on the back. But again, it feels a little bad, but I don't know, man. Blue, like Frisco, dang it, Frisco. If you watch this video, dang it, Frisco. Blue might be on the rise again, and I'm really fear when Blue's on the rise. Not that Blue's not a bad color, but really, like, with Baby Hatch and Heroic Prospect and D-Magic and Baby having its own Revenge Big Bang and, like, all these negates, it just feels really bad. I do know that there is one card that people are wanting banned, and that's the Frieza 100% Overdrive. And I can see why, because Baby can play it. Blue can just play it because of Rebirth of Justice. And I don't think that interaction was ever intended. Maybe you do leave that there, like the 100% overdrive, but then just ban the Rebirth and be like, play red energy or you're not playing this card. But I also think that if you ban 100%, you really hurt mill decks that want to play it. And Rebirth of Justice is the primary way to play that in those decks. So I don't know where we stand in relation to 100% Overdrive and Rebirth of Justice. Again, you could just tell those decks, yeah, play some red and get good, or don't play the card at all. And that's totally fine. But again, aside from the fact that Baby can use it is ridiculous. One last card that I think is an honorable mention is banning Turning the Tide. And honestly, probably Scientist Fu. Both of those cards probably need banned at this point. I mean, it's not Scientist Fu. Fu Shrouded in Mystery. My apologies, I misspoke. Why both of those cards? They're just degenerate beyond all reason. Fu Shrouded in Mystery, that's a card that, like, in my area, around here in Anderson and in Muncie, I coined as like, oh, this card's actually stupid. And they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, wait till I overwhelm in 10 and tap 6. You're going to really reconsider how stupid this card is. And once I did it, one of my opponents, the first time I did it, he picks up my card, reads it, sets it down, pauses for a second, then picks it back up to read what the card did. And that just goes, that's just an example to show how powerful the card is. Turning off every effect that you have that's not like your leader abilities for your opponent is ridiculous. Like, that's just, it's an absurd effect. And stall decks or grind decks that can just drag you out into the waters of energy just get to play this card at seemingly no consequence if you're blue, because D-Magic exists, Bean exists, Soul Striker exists, all these other cards exist. And so it's just like a really very unfun way for the game to end. It's like the apex of power problem on steroids, because it's literally nothing. No negates, no super combos, effects, nothing. And only your leader ability. Ooh, whoop-de-doo, Basil. And Turning the Tide. Turning the Tide needs to be banned if we make the format slower, because it can be played easier. Like, the slower the format gets, as my friend Daniel says, the better Turning the Tide gets. And I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. And Turning the Tide, if you don't have an apt comparison, that card is almost as bad as, if not worse, than Gogeta 7. One, I'm not saying that Gogeta 7 having Deflect and Barrier and Triple Strike and the history, that overall it's worse than Turning the Tide. What I am saying, though, is that a card that is 30k critical with Deflect, with no hope of being able to interact with it whatsoever, and it just actually get like bodying 12 cards out of your opponent's hand, swing for critical, and then swing with leader, you get to draw. That is really stupid. Like, it's really stupid. And that's all before you factor in what you've drawn, what you could have drawn, what you've set up to draw for yourself. So, yeah, it's a completely uninteractable card. It needs to be banned, in my opinion. And I know, why are we talking about hitting blue when it's literally the worst color in the game? But you make the format slower and Turning the Tide starts to see play, it's going to become a problem. So, on to green. Is there even anything to talk about in green? The top card for green, in my opinion, is Dormant Potential. but that's seeing less play because there's bad King Cold players out there, in my opinion. I don't know who in the right mind thinks Homicidal Clones is better than Dormant Potential, but again, to me, it just seems like you don't want to win games or like stop your opponent from actually doing something to you. But to each their own, right? Like, to their own devices, I guess. But Dormant Potential would be the card to hit if there was any green card. Excuse me. If there was any green card to hit. And primarily just because, I mean, it's obvious. It's a free played negate that isn't a negate, but it also kills cards. And it just says this turn and this attack and the next attack, that's it. So I think that that's a pretty stupid interaction. And that would be the card to hit in green. Do I think they're going to hit it? Absolutely not. So, moving on. Yeah, I think actually that's every color. And I don't think that there's anything that's really worth coming off the ban list. Although 3-drop Cell would be nice. But that's not going to happen. And I also think that there's nothing really that needs errata that like we can even really talk about beyond what we already have. And I don't think like there's people who want, I want DMS banned, like Dark Black Power Mask saying, no, you can't have that. Like, it used to be a problem card, but now it's like way more fair. I do know that people want, this is another card, so onto some multicolor cards. Catastrophic Blow to like 1. That's fair. I think that card should be at 1. Like, does it really hurt Invoker? Absolutely. You know what I just watched for like an hour earlier, or like an hour and a half, is Aspira playing Invoker and burning people to death with multiple catastrophic blows at 8 energy. Sounds fun. Sounds real fun. Yeah, we talk about another deck that just gets better when the format's slower. And yeah, Cat Blow going to 1, super nice. This way it's like a burn it 2 life, not burn it 4 or 5 life, just straight to the ground. Like the whole house, we're taking the whole house down. And then another card people have talked about in the multicolor pool is Piccolo Jr. Eradicator Piece. I see why people would want that card banned. It's also not doing anything like at all. And was it a menace? Absolutely. And then people realize you can just get rid of it. So they start blowing it up with effects. Like, I mean, that card just doesn't even live a turn with Dark Brawly around. So, yeah, personally, I don't think that card's going to go anywhere. And I don't think that it warrants being on this list. Simply because, again, there's no top deck in the game that's really playing it. So, yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching this half-hour plus ban list discussion video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think I missed anything that you find as an honorable mention that you would like to see, as well as what are your hopes for this ban list. If you like have a list of cards that you guys want to type in the comments, please do. Let me know what you think about any of the ideas that I proposed. Again, this is a spitballing video. It's not like I have a source that knows a guy who was walking by somebody who was reading a newspaper and mumbling to himself what was on the ban list. That is not what happened. But what I will say is that these types of videos are always really fun, and I hope you guys got some enjoyment out of it. And it's jogged some ideas about what, hey, you know what? Maybe this is something I would like to see. I think that'd be interesting. So I will catch you guys next time. This is Alex from TCG, signing off. Later.